Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We're going to have a short board meeting, and then we're going to adjourn and get into our workshop at hand for today. I see that all the commissioners are present, so I think we need to call the roll. The minutes were electronically emailed to everybody. Does anybody have any additional corrections to the minutes? Since we need a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. We'll move right into our action for today, which is Resolution 1242, amending commitment appropriations for the fiscal year beginning July 1. That should be 2011.
Only mistake of the day. You're right.
So far. 2011. And who's up?
It's, this is the only official action we have today. I'll recognize Mark Walker.
Commissioners, prior to your consideration of Resolution 1242, which does have to deal with needing additional commitment appropriations for this fiscal year, I wanted to take just a few moments and review for you budget appropriation performance for fiscal year 2011. Last month at the board's Audit and Finance Committee, we provided a full report on budget performance, forecasted budget performance for this fiscal year. I wanted to share that report with you, and then we'll transition in and talk about the need for additional commitment appropriations for the remainder of this fiscal year. So in total, the budget that the board adopted last May of 2010, was $862 million, and that is consolidated for all four divisions, even though each division has its own respective budget appropriation. But in total, $862 million. Our forecast for cash expenditures for the year is $822 million. So we are projected to be $40 million or 4.7% under budget. And we'll go into a little bit more detail here in just a moment. But the primary drivers for that is wholesale energy prices, both electric and gas, being slightly lower than anticipated when we set the budget this time last year, and also capital projects, timing on capital projects, most notably in the electric and wastewater systems. But I am pleased to report that all four divisions are forecasted to be under budget for the year, so there is no need for additional budget appropriations for this year. Commissioners, this chart shows the budget variance for major cost items by division. And I will point out that with this chart, the parenthetical means that it is over budget. So I'll start with the far left with the electric division. In total, you'll see $22.4 million under budget. The primary drivers for that are wholesale power purchases being $7 million under budget. And that's just slightly lower TVA rates than what we had anticipated at the beginning of the year or at this time last year. Obviously, the overall purchase power cost budget is in excess of $400 million, so that's probably less than 2% of the total power cost budget. Capital is $15.1 million under budget, reflects primarily the timing of capital projects, primarily substation projects, and most notably the Dale Avenue substation project, which will be completed next fiscal year. And then last for electric, tax equivalents, $400,000 under budget. That is a reflection that payroll is lower than budget this year, so FICA taxes are less than budget. For the gas division, $5.3 million under budget. Wholesale gas prices, gas costs, $6.7 million, so that's the primary reason that we're under budget. I will draw your attention to gas O&M being approximately $4 million over budget for the fiscal year, and that has to do with the gas saddle replacement program. At this time last year, when we were setting the budget for fiscal year 2011, we were still evaluating both the timing and the scope of that project. So what we put in the budget was $800,000 for the current year and $1.2 million for next year. We were thinking we'd get the work done over 2 years. Subsequent to the adoption of the budget, we decided that work needed to be completed by the end of this fiscal year. And by that time, we had a better understanding of the full scope of it. So the total cost, excluding KUB labor this year, is going to be $3.5 million for that particular project. Remember, the budget was only $800,000. So that's $2.7 million of that variance. The remainder really has to do with KUB labor. Now, obviously, that was all budgeted, but it was budgeted in different areas, maybe as capital or as water or wastewater O&M, and now it's showing up as gas O&M. So all that together really explains that $4 million variance. And then also on gas, $2 million under capital. That is some timing of projects and also the reallocation of labor that was budgeted in gas for capital going to O&M for the gas saddle project. For the water division, $2.3 million under budget, primarily water O&M being $1 million under budget. That is lower chemical costs, lower utility costs for the operation of the Mark B. Whitaker plant and some of the remote pump station sites. Debt service, almost $1 million under budget. At this time last year, we were anticipating to sell $15 million in water bonds this fiscal year. It turned out we didn't need to because of some timing issues. That issue has now been deferred to next fiscal year, so the debt service associated with that particular bond issue did not happen this year. So about $1 million under budget for water debt service. For wastewater, $10.2 million under budget. O&M, $1.3 million. Again, their share, wastewater share of lower chemical and utility costs. Capital, $7.5 million under budget. That is timing on phase 10 capital projects. So in total, wholesale energy, $13.7 million under budget. O&M, $1.7 million. Capital, $25 million. Debt service, a little under $3 million. Again, $40.3 million under budget. Any questions on that?
Or did we postpone capital projects in gas because of doing the saddle program?
No, it's a combination of two things on the capital. One is just the timing of some of the cast iron replacement projects moving into next fiscal year. So that's one thing. The other thing is just a reallocation of labor that had been planned to be working on capital going to O&M, and a lot of that was somewhat out of the meter shop. Commissioners, this chart shows an overview of total cash performance compared to budget. As you can see, we have the expenditures, which we just discussed, but this chart also reflects the performance of revenues or cash receipts compared to budget. So you get a feel for the net impact on division's cash position by the end of the fiscal year. And I'll point out here that a parenthetical means a decrease in cash. So again, I'll start at the far left with the electric division. In total, $15.2 million gain to the electric division's cash position. That you see the expenditures we just talked about being $22.4 million under. Receipts are actually $7.2 million less than budget, and that is primarily the flow through of the lower wholesale energy prices or wholesale electric costs that we talked about on the previous chart. For the gas division, a $1.1 million decrease to their net cash position as expected at the end of the fiscal year. Receipts down $6.4 million, and again, that's a flow through of the lower wholesale gas prices, just like with electric. And then you see the expenditures reductions. For water, revenues were actually slightly higher than what we budgeted at $160,000 higher. In total, $2.5 million gain to the cash position. And for wastewater, revenues are again relatively flat as with water. Expenditures $10.2 million, in total $10.1 million net gain to cash. Now when I say net gain to cash, I want to clarify, since there's a lot of timing and deferral of projects built into this, of this $26.6 million, probably about $6 million of that is true long-term cash savings that would be available for other purposes. Any questions on that? Well, we'll transition now and talk briefly about commitment appropriations. I know Bill Coley always tells me this is one of his favorite topics of the year, dealing with commitments. But basically, as we talked about budget appropriations, each year the board also adopts commitment appropriations. And that allows KUB to enter into contracts during the course of a year that commit to expenditures beyond the current fiscal year. And last May, the board adopted $28.1 million for the current fiscal year. We've been reviewing commitments made, commitments still to be made over the last month, and we have determined that additional authority is needed for both the gas and wastewater divisions. And some of the key projects driving the need for additional commitments for the gas division. One project in particular shown there is Gas Line River Crossing. That's actually a part of a larger project that Julie will go into some detail on a little bit later today. As far as a gas main extension along Alcoa Highway. The initial phase of that will be a river line crossing near the University of Tennessee area. So that's 4.5 million of the 7.1. And we anticipate that that initial phase of the project would be bid out and maybe a contract signed by the end of the fiscal year. So that's what this commitment authority is for. For the wastewater division, pretty much all of the 23 million that we're requesting are for phase 10 projects. Most of them are located in the Third Creek collection system basin, but this authority will allow us to sign any necessary contracts before the end of the fiscal year that would commit to future expenditures. So in total, again, as a reminder, last May, Resolution 1228 approved $28.1 million in total commitment authority. Resolution 1242 for your consideration today would add $7.1 million to the gas division, $23.4 million to the wastewater division, for a total of additional $30.5 million. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
My annual question about how is this included in the budget that we're going to consider for next year, or is it not?
But some of it could be potentially those projects where there'll be cash expenditures next fiscal year. We're going ahead and giving the authority to execute the contracts for those before the end of this fiscal year, as needed. But many of those expenditures would also be in the budget appropriation for next year.
And the 28 million that we approved last year, was that all spent and showed up in the previous slides that
Yes.
illustrated how the budget works?
That is correct.
I move that we adopt and approve Resolution 1242.
Any public comment on this resolution? Any questions? We need a roll call vote.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Cannell. Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Resolution 1242 is passed.
Thank you. That concludes the official business of our board meeting. Is there any other business that anybody has, commissioners or public input?
If not, we're going to officially adjourn the board meeting and